Hey, Kelsie.
Hey, Brooke.
Want to tell everyone what's happening in today's episode?
Today, we are recapping 1 year of a podcast.
Oh, 1 year. That's insane.
It's insane.
I'm excited.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Remedial Herstory, the other 50%, the podcast that explores what happened to the women in history class. Now, here's your host, Kelsie Brooke Eckert, and her partner in crime, Brooke Neva Sullivan.
Year 1 recap.
What a year it's been.
What a year it has been. Oh my gosh. Brooke, we have done 50 episodes on this.
That's not true. Is that true?
50 episodes.
Well, look at us.
Look at us.
All professional and stuff.
And stuff. That sounded professional.
See, I learned over the course of this year that I'm not going to swear anymore.
Oh, good.
Well, I probably still will, and Kelsie will have to edit it out. But 50 episodes.
50
Oh,
episodes.
my God.
Yeah. So, holy moly, I want to give a massive shout out to our patrons who have joined us this year.
Oh, my God. I know people paid to listen to us. Thank you so much.
They're incredible. And to listen to all the wonderful scholars that we've brought on.
Oh, my
this
gosh.
year.
Yeah.
You are a patron.
I am a patron because I like to pay to hang out with Kelsie, but I also want our swag. So
Yeah.
people don't know that about the patron page is if
yeah.
you become a patron, you get cool swag with our logos and decals and women's quotes and really cool stuff on it. So that's always
You
fun.
just got your bumper sticker.
I did. I put it right on my desk. It was very fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I love being a patron, but you also get a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
In addition to the podcast, you get a lot of cool info too, which is
Yeah.
fun to watch.
I put up all the research that I'm doing
Yep.
and early release of episodes and those
Yeah.
sorts of things.
When I love our patrons are so engaged too on all of our social channels and our newsletter, and they're always giving us great feedback. So it's just been really fun to have people invested in what we're up to. And
One thing that really strikes me is a lot of these people are not teachers.
Which is
And
cool.
I think that's really cool.
yeah, well, and I think, I'm not a teacher, so I speak from the lens of like feeling really gypped on my education.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I don't know if other patrons feel that way of why they listen, because it's like, oh, I never knew about these things.
Yeah.
And I feel like I missed out on some really cool stuff and some very impactful stories that would help me as a woman in my lifetime think about leadership and development and
Yeah.
growth and, where women have already been. So it's
Yeah.
been really, especially in the last year in the political climate that we've been in, I do want to hear more women's voices, and it's been
Yeah.
really at the forefront of my mind. So I love that there's not all teachers in our crowd.
Our first patrons were Kent and Jamie Heckle, who happened to be my stepbrother and his
Oh,
wife.
that's
And
nice.
I love that. And they are not teachers. And
No.
they have been with us from the beginning. Huge supporters.
I know. Thanks, guys.
Kent is helping on one of our video projects. He's a YouTuber and a YouTube expert. So we are going to be using his expertise as we move into some of our YouTube series for U.S. and world history.
I know. We're going to get into all of that to tell you guys a lot more about it, but
Yeah.
they're awesome.
They're incredible. We also have another patron who's been with us pretty much since the beginning, Sarah Richard. She is just a badass from Concord, New Hampshire.
Yes.
And she and I do triathlon together. She is an architect, not a teacher, and just loves learning women's stories.
I love that.
Yeah, just great. We have a couple of our board members who are patrons, Barbara Tischler, Alicia Gutierrez Romine. And I'm just so grateful to them, not only coming on board and like giving us their time and their
Right.
energy, but also their money. That's just so wonderful.
Yeah,
to
and
have
investing that.
support.
It's amazing. And they've both been on the podcast. People have listened to the episodes that they've been interviewed, which has been really cool too. So
Yeah. You and I, earlier this year, we went on to Christian Bordeaux's podcast and
Yes.
talked with him about giving birth. And I think he was a little culture shocked, but I just appreciate that he went, wow, I'm preaching that women's stories need to be in. And he wanted to support us because, his podcast is talking about women's narratives, and I love that. But he wanted to support us because we're also making lesson plans and building all these tools for teachers and students to be using. And so I'm just so grateful for Christian coming on board and supporting us. Jenna Koloski, I forgot to mention her. She's also a board member. My mom, your mom.
Gotta love our moms. The women's that, they taught us how to use our voices. So now they're supporting the voices we have, which is so nice of moms.
I just love
Thanks, Leah.
Leah?
That's my mom's name.
You don't call her Leah, though. You call her mom, right?
Well, I sometimes call my parents by their first names because it's fun. Because my dad's name is Dickie. So it's just kind of fun.
Oh, Lord. We have Megan Torrey Payne. We also have Mark Breyer, who was actually one of my high school teachers, which is kind of cool. Nicole Wolf, Ann Larson, and Katia Miller. And I'm just so grateful. We have some of these names. What I love about it is we don't know who they are. And to know
every time Kelsey's like, we got a new patron. Do you know who they are? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's kind of the best to know that our voices and the podcast and the project that Kelsie and the team and everyone's working on is getting out there and people are getting interested in it, which is really, really exciting.
I had a meeting. I'm working to help with the New Hampshire Historic Society and the New Hampshire Council, the New Hampshire Civics Institute, sorry. We're all meeting with the New Hampshire Council for Social Studies and working to create guidelines in lieu of having state standards because the governor's commissioner recently took the New Hampshire State Social Studies standards down off the website. So we don't have state standards anymore.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
That was great. And so
I love that there's 3 committees coming back. Like, and excuse me?
Yeah, like 3 organizations.
Let me clear my throat. There's a standard.
Yeah, we are going to make them. So we're not calling them standards. We're calling them guidelines. And it's just really advice to administrators about what to do and resources.
That and new teachers. You're going to have new history teachers going out into the universe next year, educating classrooms. And not that their colleges didn't do a lovely job of getting them prepared, but I know if someone was like, go do.
Yeah.
And I had never done the job before.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you.
So I'm sitting in this meeting and we were talking about something and related to the, guidelines and standards.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the Remedial Herstory project. And this woman across the table from me goes, oh my God, I love the Remedial Herstory project. And I was like, cool, that's me.
Cool. So I'll see you after for autographs.
Yeah.
I know. I had a similar experience. We went to a pandemic wedding, which was odd in itself, but someone was like, oh yeah, no, I was talking at this table and he was like, I'm a huge history buff. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, actually, my friend Kelsie and I have a history podcast. And he was like, wait, Remedial Herstory is yours? And I was like, yes, I'm Brooke. He's like, you're Brooke? I was like, hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. He's like, that podcast is awesome. He goes, I've sent it out to so many teacher friends. And I was like, oh, thank you so much.
That's sweet.
I know.
Really
it's
awesome.
cool to have like those little fan moments in our local community, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But even, the Instagram page is pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. We've got a lot of followers on Instagram and a lot of our board members help with that. We've got Chloe who puts out a weekly post about women in world history. And we've had Caitlin Weldon who is doing so much on recruiting and just did a lot of research in how to help us build and reach out through that. And we also have a newsletter that a lot of people subscribe to. And in that, we talk about the lesson plans on our podcast. Yep. In the newsletter, we actually provide the PDFs. Like, here it is.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah. Like, go download it. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to continue to know about is that you are constantly putting up new lesson plans on the website. And you have a whole team of people working on them, which is really, really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm very conscious of how little I know about women's history.
Please.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really, really cool. So Kelsie, what were some of your favorite episodes?
My favorites were, I loved learning from other people.
Same.
So some of my favorites were bringing people on to our podcast. I want to go like way, way back.
Take us back. Where are we going?
We had Elise Hooper and Danielle Mcguire. They committed to coming on our podcast as guests before we were really even a thing. And I'm so grateful to the two of them. I loved reading Elise's book, Fast Girls. This was about, I'm an athlete. I do triathlon. I like in the runner world. And so reading about the first female Olympians, some of the first female Olympians was really cool. And we had, one of the granddaughters of the women in that book reach out to us through social media.
I love that. That's like the power of social media, which is really, really cool
We've
right
made
now.
so many connections.
Yeah. I just love that our board has expanded to being an international board because of social media, that they learned about us, which is really cool. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. What's like another episode that like sticks out in your mind?
Well, I want to just talk briefly about Danielle Mcguire's episode, because that was really impactful for me, because I felt like, I mean, just classic. Like I thought I knew the civil rights movement. I teach about it. I thought I had it. And then to be like, women's perspective, you don't have anything on that, and you don't understand how centered sexuality, and in particular rape and sexual assault, were in that movement. And it kind of opened my world to something that is probably really obvious for Black women in America, but just the interconnectedness between those things and Black history. And to teach Black history without talking about rape and sexual assault, I feel like is just lying, and
big time.
And it's been really powerful. And also, I loved Danielle's book because the women in it were victims of those things, but they were so freaking resilient. And I just saw how much power these women had in surviving and speaking truth to power and not backing down. And I was so impressed by the characters in those stories.
Oh my gosh, big time.
What was your favorites?
I know. Sorry, I was just looking up the name. I had it in my mind before we came down here. Oh, Dr. Melissa Blair was one of my favorites. Your interview with her and like talking about the Black women's clubs and like learning more about these, networks of women that are doing some incredible things way before white women were even thinking about doing some of this stuff. And it was just...
Well, and sometimes in spite of white women.
Right, because they weren't included or weren't given a seat, which I thought was really powerful and something I'd never learned about, which was really interesting.
She was hilarious.
Oh my God, I was
take
like
a class from
cry
her.
laughing at that episode. Yeah. it was really good. That was one of my favorites.
I really liked having our board member Alicia Gutierrez run.
I was just gonna say that was 100% one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, she's just incredible.
I just like hanging out with her, even at our board meetings. I'm just like, hi,
tell me everything,
all the things. I stalk her on social media hard. I'm such a fangirl.
Yeah, because she's a badass.
Oh my gosh,
she can do like a million.
We should really
pull-ups.
say doctor. I mean,
doctor.
I mean, she is...
All of these women that I mentioned
are doctors. Yeah, like that's the cool thing too. It's like all of these women show up. They are doctors. They're doing incredible work in their field. But she is just... And she kickboxes and like does all this really badass stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she's just cool.
I had kind of like a cool moment being able to interview Maggie Hassan. I've met her, Senator Maggie Hassan. I've met her several times, but it was always with students and I wasn't, the center of attention, which was problematic. So this was really cool to just talk to a senator and a woman who made history. I really enjoyed that episode a lot. I always enjoyed talking to the First Lady's man.
Yes.
He's
so
just
fun.
Like he could talk about First Ladies forever. And I'm just so
It's an interesting, like, what you get obsessive about. It's like when you meet someone, they're like, so I collect coins. You're like, I'll be over there. And then he's like, I research First Ladies. You're like, tell me more. Tell me more. What are you doing?
Why are you picking on coin collectors?
I'm really not. I'm like, good for you. Not for me. You do you over there.
But seriously though, like I'm having a hard time because we did 50 episodes this season.
I know. Well, the other one I loved that you did. So this wasn't an interview. Like we've interviewed some really cool people, but I always walk away learning something from you when we do our episodes. And my favorite was our Thanksgiving episode. I learned so much about that holiday that I had no clue about. And you think the other side of it, where like we really obviously did horrible things to Native Americans in this country. And so you think that perspective. And then you come in with like no, this holiday was meant to celebrate women, but really they've just been enslaved in the kitchen behind all of this. It's like, what?
Yeah.
That was pretty
Well, and a
mind-blowing.
New Hampshire woman, Sarah.
Yeah,
Jessica Hale,
exactly.
was behind that. Yeah.
Which was kind of cool too. So that was one of my favorites that I got to learn a lot from you and really enjoyed.
The hardest episode for me was the Mary Baker Eddy one
Yeah.
that I did. You got to see me behind the scenes, just like,
Yeah, a little behind the scenes. Kels was struggle bus on that one, just because I think you wanted to do such justice to the story and not put in your own opinions or bias or anything. You wanted to really leave it as is and leave it out there for those to interpret and take away and use. But yeah, poor Kelsie, we approached that episode probably 6 times, I want to say. You're like, okay, we're going to do Mary Baker Eddy. I was like, great, let's get it done. And you're like, never mind, I'm going to do something else. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll do that too. Because I don't know how much people know, but Kelsie does plan all the episodes and really does a really nice job of articulating what she wants to get across and planning it out and thinking about it. And if you go back to our early days, first episodes are very well scripted.
Yep.
Which we learned through the process. That wasn't how we wanted to be.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of learning stuff too about how we want to put things out there.
Probably the funniest episode for me was Culture Wars.
Oh, God.
There was a 2-part Culture Wars, and we had some audio issues with that one that we could not remedy despite sending it off to several sound editors.
Engineers, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is a funny one.
That was, you had me rolling with all of your Puritan experiences as a child.
I mean, there is a whole culture of growing up in New England that I think the rest of the country does not know about.
Yeah.
And the world. Like they die hard about it.
Yeah.
So, and Connecticut in particular, where most of the Revolutionary War right next to New York happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get real into it still.
Yeah.
Well, and being in the DAR as, a member, I'm not real into it, but I am, a participant, and I still pay attention to what people are doing in that space because I think it is really interesting that it's a group that is honoring women who were through this moment in time. So it's very interesting that way too. But yeah, that episode's funny. The Stonewall episode too, where we talked about LGBTQ community and the history behind that was pretty interesting as well.
So, Brooke, where we started and where we are now are very different. We started with skinny dipping.
Yes. So yeah, if people go back and listen to the first episode, they'll get our origin story. But yeah, Kelsie had this brainchild and wanted to birth it to life.
Yeah, I was writing a book actually.
Yes,
and it was actually my husband's idea. He's a patron, and he was like, "You have all these ideas, but you haven't really hashed them out. You should do that in a podcast." And I happened to be skinny dipping with Brooke that evening, and was like,
"Not alone. We have friends." Not that it matters.
Do we though?
We have a group of moms that were dying during the pandemic and needed to get out of their houses.
Yeah, exactly. So, we started with just sort of this like brainchild idea, and I was very scared actually because this other teacher had started a very similar podcast. But I felt like having the two of us and having a non-teacher like yourself on really brought some energy to it. And you brought up things that I definitely don't think about, and I think because you're not in the education space all the time, it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I think that happens too when we bring on speakers, is we get a lot of great perspective that we have yet to hear, which I think is really interesting and always really, really nice. But yeah, we definitely started in one place, and the evolution of what you're building is amazing.
We are building.
I'm on the horse, but I'm in the back buggy.
We in December founded a nonprofit in New Hampshire, and we now have a board of 13 badass women.
Oh my gosh,
on the board.
Favorite meetings
all over the world: Scotland, Wales.
Yep.
Outside London,
California, Arizona,
Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have
Vermont.
like 50 states represented and the country.
Yeah.
It should be pretty amazing. Not that we need the board to be that big, but we have women that are invested with their time and energy and education and experience. That is really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
The process of becoming a nonprofit.
Hard. Thank you, IRS.
Excuse me.
It's been real.
Would not recommend it to most.
Yeah.
Poor Kelsie and the paperwork.
Yeah. There's a lot of paperwork there, but we became a nonprofit that enabled us to get grants. We've gotten a couple grants, which is
really even
exciting.
cooler. People are investing in the program and what
We
you're
have
up to.
a team of educators this summer. We have 6 educators working on C3 lesson plans.
I mean, can we just
yeah,
talk about a resource to teachers? Wow.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yep.
That's
These are
really
going to be
cool.
up on the New Hampshire Council for the Social Studies website at the end of the summer. They will also be up on our website, and then we're going to submit them to c3teachers.org. And so hopefully we'll have a hub there that we can use. But that's not set in stone yet. But just really cool things. We have a team working on a U.S. history series and a world series for a upcoming YouTube channel. And these would be really similar to the Crash Course History series. And we're going to put them up on YouTube. They'll be free. You could play them in your classroom. They're designed for kids, whereas our podcast is more designed for educators.
Right.
And so that's really exciting. If we have some grants in the works that we're hoping, but you can certainly become a patron, and that money would go to supporting these other projects that we're working on. So the patrons don't just fund the podcast, they're funding the whole project, which is this much bigger thing. You've also changed jobs this year, and as have I.
Yeah. Crazy time of year to change a job. But I doing same work, but for a new company that's a really exciting company, and it's based out of DC doing behavioral health technology, which is so needed after the years we've had recently. And it also works with teen suicidal ideation programs, which is pretty impressive and amazing. And it's been incredible to partner with them and work with that company. And it was a nice change.
Yeah.
So, and you've changed. This is a big move.
This is a big move. This is a little weird to announce on a podcast designed for teachers, but I am not going to be a K-12 teacher next year. I am going to be a college professor starting next year. I was offered a position to coordinate the social studies education program and train teachers. And so I'm really looking forward to kind of actually doing, we've essentially been critiquing social studies education programs this year, and now I have to talk and do what I'm talking about.
You got to do the thing.
You got to do the thing.
But I'm so excited for you to have this platform to impact future educators, which is what you are so passionate about, hence the podcast, hence the nonprofit, all the work you're doing. You're going to a university that is well known historically as producing some of the best teachers in the world. And so what a better place to position yourself to really impact the future of kids and towns and programs. And I'm so excited for you.
It's going to be a huge change, but I'm really, I'm scared, and you can kind of feel it. It's big. It's a big change. I'm going to be a young lady on campus, but it's going to be pretty cool to do that. And I'm very excited because they're excited to have me.
Yeah. Faculty.
Yeah. It's going to be very, very special. So I can't wait.
That's really exciting. Okay. So we're a year out. Yeah. What is the vision a year from now? Where do you see us?
Well, for year 2 of the podcast, we have a plan to keep bringing on these incredible scholars.
Right.
And I think that teachers need to hear the diversity of women's history.
Right.
And to know that there are so many women's stories out there, not just in U.S. history, but in world history. And I think people accept okay, there was a suffrage movement, women existed in U.S. history, but it's sort of and before suffrage, there was also history, right? And so we have all of these incredible scholars lined up for year 2 to come on and teach our audience about women's history that they missed out on. We are going to continue producing inquiry-based lesson plans and making them available on our website. We are hoping to push these YouTube channels. And
I think the YouTube, the interactive media that is going to be produced that's huge. I mean, that's what teachers are looking for. Not only the lesson plans, but how do I engage this generation of student who is highly engaged in technology and really, really visual learners. And so what do you bring to them?
Right. For the podcast, we've identified a bunch of different themes for next year, and we're going to be very thematic. And so we will have sections of the year devoted to X theme.
Cool.
And I'm really, really excited about some of these themes. We're doing one on LGBTQ women in history.
Amazing. I feel like there's so many educators out there right now looking for those resources, not just in history classes, but also in English classrooms and some others that are really trying to incorporate much more story narrative.
I'm pretty passionate about that theme because I feel like sort of the same pattern happens in that history that happens in general history,
right?
Which is sort of the gay men come to the top of people. Like I'm thinking Harvey Milk, right?
That was immediately where I was like, who's the gay man I know in history?
Boom.
Harvey Milk.
Yeah, right. And like he's awesome. He's important. We should be learning about him.
Yep.
And all of those same things that we believe about, General Washington and whatever. But there are women in history who also should be recognized for pushing, the narrative and moving the needle, like you say.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing about that topic too is that there are so many women that have made a difference, a significant difference in different, spaces within history and time that came out later.
Yeah.
And so you don't know that they're part of the LGBTQIA community.
Yeah.
And the trans community and all these, it's like, their voices need to be heard, and they were hard to be their whole authentic self in the moments that were most difficult.
Yeah.
And now they're ready. And that's even better that it's like, okay, they're showing their whole self to the world, which is really, really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other themes that we're looking at?
We have one on monarchs, empresses,
my
and
fave.
politicians, right? So just sort of these like powerhouse politician people from
love me
world
some
history.
queens.
Yeah, queens, gotta have them. We've got business and science, women in business and science and history.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch, and I'm just very, very excited to share these new themes with people. And we will introduce the themes in our year 2 opener.
Okay.
But we will still have us. I will still be also teaching lessons on the podcast about things that I'm uncovering. And it's going to be very, very exciting. We have so many people energized. We put out a call for proposals the other day, and my inbox flooded with proposals from historians.
Very cool. Well, that's exciting for everyone to have an opportunity to hear from some really diverse people.
Yeah, all over the world.
Very cool.
Which is really, really special. So, Brooke, we have a lot to look forward to. A lot has changed. This is a big year. The state of social studies education, sadly, has at least in New Hampshire, not improved since we started this podcast.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming a huge conversation for many, many states across the U.S. And hopefully we're going to get to a better place through all of this because people are finally talking about U.S. history and history in general and what should be included and what shouldn't. And I'm glad it's at least on the conversation. But
there's a lot.
Hopefully it's trending in the better direction.
There's a lot out there about those divisive concepts. And I think it's really taking people away from the real heart of the matter, which is educators need support. Educators need training. They need funding.
Yep.
And a lot of the dialogue is about sort of like disciplining educators for not doing X, Y, or Z based on someone's political persuasion.
Yeah.
And we need to really hold true to educators need funding and they need support and they need training. I mean, Remedial Herstory.
Absolutely. And after the year we had, if people do not understand how valuable an educator is after students were not in the classroom for so long, like when are we going to recognize that?
Yeah.
So I hope this is the day in the sun for teachers and this will hopefully move the needle forward in the conversations that need to be had.
Yeah. So for all the educators out there, I hope that there's a drink in your hand. I hope that your feet are up and you are in the sun. And if you're not, stop listening to this podcast and go get in the sun.
Yes, it is summer vacation for teachers. You deserve it.
Yes.
Like you go enjoy. And us schleps who have to go into the office every day, we will just be very envious of you forever and ever.
But you did 12 months of work in 10.
Oh my God.
So
yeah, 100%.
Go crush the summer.
Yeah, do it up. Have a cocktail for Kelsie and I.
Woohoo!
All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. We launch season 2, year 2. We don't do seasons. It's just a big year.
We do seasons in our lives.
Yeah.
This is our season.
Yeah.
But
My life is a season.
we're very philosophical. No. Yeah.
End of August.
End
Look
of
for
August.
us, end of August.
And hopefully we'll be back from the retreat.
Yeah.
Which
From the
we'll
retreat.
have some cool updates for you all from that as well.
Yes, if you haven't registered for the retreat yet, get on it.
Cannot wait to see people in person.
Oh
It'll
my
be fun.
gosh.
All right. Well, I'm Brooke Sullivan.
I'm Kelsie Eckert.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to Remedial Herstory, the other 50%. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts to bring more voices to the conversation. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.